All right, today we're diving into a really cool element, one that powers both heavy industry and life itself. We're talking about molybdenum.
So let me ask you a question. What could a super high-performance jet engine and, say, your own liver possibly have in common? It sounds like a riddle, right? Well, the surprising answer is a single, silvery white heavy metal.
And this is it, molybdenum. Now, in the industrial world, it's what's known as a refractory metal. Basically, that's just a fancy way of saying it's prized for its incredible ability to handle extreme heat and pressure. We're talking about a key ingredient in some of the toughest materials on the planet.
And yeah, that brings us to its first identity, an absolute industrial powerhouse. This is where molybdenum's raw strength is really on full display. So, to really get a feel for what makes this metal so special, let's put it head-to-head with its more famous heavyweight cousin, tungsten. You've probably heard of that one.
Okay, so tungsten, it has the highest melting point of any metal. It's incredibly tough. But molybdenum, well, it's less dense. And here's the kicker, it's way easier to machine. And that workability, that gives it a massive advantage in manufacturing. It makes it the perfect choice when you need to make complex, high-strength parts.
So, where do you actually see this stuff in action? Well, think about places that demand peak performance under insane pressure. When you add it to steel alloys, they keep their strength even at scorching hot temperatures. That's exactly why it's so vital for things like aerospace and defense components. You'll also find it in powerful industrial motors, even the bases for semiconductors. It's kind of a hidden hero of modern tech, really.
But that's only half the story. Not even. See, molybdenum has this second, way more surprising secret identity. Because it turns out that this super tough industrial metal's most important job has absolutely nothing to do with furnaces or engines. Nope. In fact, it's not in a factory at all. It's inside you, like right now. In your body, molybdenum gets built into this tiny biological molecule called the molybdenum cofactor, or MoCo for short. And get this is the only form your body can actually use. So what exactly is MoCo? The best way to think about it is like a perfectly crafted, highly specialized key. Right at its core sits a single atom of molybdenum, and without this very specific key, a small but totally vital group of enzymes in your body, they just can't be turned on. And while a deficiency is really rare, if it does happen, it's devastating. We're talking severe neurological damage.
So that brings us to these tiny biological engines that molybdenum powers. Let's take a closer look at what these amazing little enzymes actually do. Okay, so in humans, we know of exactly 4 essential enzymes that completely depend on this molybdenum cofactor. Just 4. But trust me, their roles are absolutely critical. All right, our first tiny engine is called xanthine oxidase, or XO. You'll find it mostly hanging out in the liver and intestines, and its whole job is about one thing: metabolism. What XO does is it handles the final 2 steps of breaking down something called purines. These are compounds that come from our DNA and from food. It turns them into uric acid, which can then be safely flushed out of the body. So you can think of it as a really fundamental piece of our metabolic cleanup crew. Next up, we have engine number 2, aldehyde oxidase, or AO. This enzyme is basically a close cousin of XO, and it's another huge player in the liver. Now, AO is also a master of metabolism, but it specializes in something a little different. It processes a huge range of substances, including a lot of common drugs and other complex nitrogen-containing compounds. Its function is super important for figuring out how effective some medications are going to be and how our body gets rid of them. Okay, so AO helps us process stuff from the outside. But our third engine, this one is arguably the most critical for our immediate survival. It's called sulfite oxidase, or SOX. You'll find SOX inside our mitochondria, the powerhouses of our cells. And it has one single vital job: to detoxify sulfate. It takes this potentially really toxic compound and converts it into harmless sulfate. And trust me, you want this to happen. Without this process, sulfate would build up and cause severe, irreversible damage, especially to the brain. So yeah, pretty important. And that brings us to number 4, the newest member of the molybdenum family. It's an enzyme called MARC, which is short for mitochondrial amidoxime reducing component. Bit of a mouthful, I know. Now, scientists are still trying to figure out everything MARC does, but what we do know is that it's a key player in drug metabolism. For instance, it can activate certain medications that are given in an inactive form, these are called prodrugs, and it can deactivate other drugs. But what's really interesting is that new research is starting to link it directly to liver health and conditions like non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Okay, so let's bring this all back together. How do we even square these two completely different worlds? You've got industrial steel on one hand and the delicate inner workings of our cells on the other.
It really is all about molybdenum's incredible dual identity. Out there in industry, it's a symbol of pure strength, heat resistance, just raw durability. But inside of us, in biology, that very same element becomes this delicate, precise, and absolutely essential key. A key that unlocks the enzymes that manage our metabolism, our detoxification, and, well, ultimately, our life.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other elements that we think of as purely industrial might be hiding these profoundly essential roles deep inside of us, just waiting to be discovered?